I never believed a poor boy could change my life until I failed every test. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest like a drum, echoing through the silence of the hallway. Lockers slammed shut, laughter faded, and there I was, standing alone, clutching my report card, my eyes blurred with tears that he was just a boy. A poor boy. But his presence was electric. I never paid attention to him before, yet that day, he stood at the edge of the crowd, watching me. His gaze was piercing, full of something I couldn't quite place. I felt it deep inside me as I crumpled the paper in my hands. My failures were an explosion of emotions: shame, confusion, a fear that ran so deep it stole the breath from my lungs. That we had grown up in the same neighborhood, but our worlds were miles apart. His family struggled just to put food on the table, while mine seemed to tower over him, suffocating. I looked down on him without knowing, unaware of his battles, while I coasted on the privilege of expectation. And now, with every failing grade, I felt my world twist and unravel. I thought of my parents, the heartache I would bring them. The looming silence of disappointment. Get it together, a voice behind me whispered. It was my best friend, Mia. Her bright smile faltered as she read my face. We can fix this. But the whisper of my heart said otherwise. I felt a lump forming in my throat. Who was I to ask for help? I looked back at him, that boy, and suddenly everything around me slipped away. The way his clothes hung on his thin frame, the way he tucked his hair behind his ear, it felt like a different world in that instant. There was something mysterious about him. Something real. Something I craved as if it could fill the cracks in my own life. I stumbled back, the whispers drawing closer. What's going on? The judgment hung in the air, thickening the tension. I could feel the stares, each one piercing deeper than the last. Can you even believe she flunked? They murmured. The laughter echoed, a knife to my heart, deepening the sting of failure. My body was shaking, a rush of adrenaline driving me to the door, and then I saw it. A flash of light, a moment that felt otherworldly. Was it his smile? Or perhaps the flicker of hope that lingered in his eyes? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run to him and choke on the chaos of my thoughts, but all I could do was stand frozen. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the moment vanished. The crowd surged, laughter drowned me again, and the boy disappeared into the shadows. I clutched my report card tighter, my breath hitching on the edge of despair. Was his presence a fleeting illusion, a glimpse of something beyond my reach? Questions crashed through my mind, and as I turned to leave, I felt a hand on my shoulder. The world shifted, ground falling beneath my feet. Who was I really? And who was that boy? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The halls blurred as I stumbled out into the cool air, each breath a gasp of bitter humiliation. I leaned against the rough brick wall, my mind racing. How did I get here? My thoughts spiraled, each one dragging up the weight of expectations, both my own and those of my family. The sun shone, casting a glimmer of warmth, but all I felt was chill, a deep shiver spreading through my bones. Mia rushed up beside me, her expression a mix of concern and frustration. Okay, let's think this through. We can study together, maybe hire a tutor? Why would it even matter? I snapped, the tension snapping like a taut rubber band. I'm just a failure. I glanced down at the crumpled report card, each grade screaming at me, reminding me of my shortcomings. Mia frowned, her eyes narrowing. No, that's not true. You're not a failure. Everybody has their setbacks, including me. Remember that time I almost flunked history? You helped me through it. Her words were meant to be comforting, but they fell flat against the tumult in my heart. Instead, I felt anger surge to the surface. You don't understand. I yelled, attracting a few curious glances from passers-by. You have everything you want. I've never lost anything like this before. With that, I turned from her, feeling an ache in my chest that churned with frustration and despair. What she could never know was that she was right. The privilege of my world had kept me insulated from the kinds of pain that bruised others. The distance between us felt broader than the miles of pavement we traversed each day. Just as I was about to take the first steps home, the boy from earlier appeared again, though this time it felt like fate was playing a cruel joke. He stood at the far end of the courtyard, leaning against a tree, the light glinting off his hair, casting shadows on that thin frame. Everything around me melted away. For a heartbeat, it was just a flicker of life against my drab reality. Taking a step toward him, I hesitated, afraid to breach the invisible line separating our worlds. But something within beckoned me closer, a whisper of hope drawing me into that moment. Suddenly, his eyes met mine, deep and calm like a clear lake, and I felt the rush of emotion bulging in my throat. Before I could rethink my impulse, I found myself moving, crossing the distance. "Hey," I said, the word tumbling out ungracefully. My heart raced. "Hey," he replied, a flicker of surprise lighting his face. His smile was timid but genuine, and I marveled at how effortlessly he stood there while I felt like I was about to shatter. "You okay?" You looked upset. The world was unbearably loud around us, but in those few heartbeats, it felt like we were contained in a bubble. "Not really," I admitted, my voice steadier than I felt. I really messed up." The admission ripped through my defenses. He nodded, his expression softening. "I know that feeling. It can be tough, you know." The honesty in his eyes was refreshing, pulling me in. "What do you mean?" I asked, eager to understand the depth of this moment. He hesitated, then glanced away, searching for the right words. "I don't have the same stuff going for me like others do. Sometimes it feels like expectations crush you, right?" His confession struck me. I had been so wrapped up in my own struggles, blinded to the intricacies of his world. "I guess," I murmured, feeling an unexpected kinship. It just felt like everything was crumbling. Our connection hovered in the air, fragile but real. Just as a hesitant smile crept across my face, a loud voice broke through the delicate moment. "There you are, Caden. Come on." A girl's laughter rang across the yard as she called to him, her tone dismissive, like he was an afterthought. He sighed quietly, his shoulders slumping ever so slightly. "Guess I have to go," he said, an edge of disappointment threading through his tone. "Wait, can we?" I stuttered, the longing pooling in my chest, desperate for something more than just this fleeting moment. But before I could finish my thought, he stepped back, the distance between us widening in just a few seconds, his figure retreating into the throng of students. And then, just like that, he was gone. It felt as if the sky dimmed, the sun suddenly tucked away behind the clouds, leaving me standing in the gray hush of disappointment. Mia was at my side again, her eyebrow raised in curiosity. "What was that about?" I opened my mouth to reply, but no words came. Instead, the echo of his voice, the warmth of his smile lingered, followed by a disquieting realization. I didn't just want to know him, I needed to know what being around him could teach me. The thought twisted in my chest, a mixture of excitement and dread, leaving me restless, and then, just as I turned to leave, a buzzing in my pocket broke the silence. I pulled out my phone, squinting at the small screen. A message from an unknown number read, "Your situation is precarious. You need to take a leap. Trust what's coming, but beware, not everything is what it seems." My heart raced. What did that mean? The sudden chill mixed with anticipation, brewing a storm of confusion and fear inside me. The moment with Caden seemed overshadowed by this new enigma. In that instant, I sensed that my life was about to shift once more, except this time, it loomed darker and further than I anticipated, foreshadowing unknown trials yet to come. The school grounds felt cold and uninviting as I stepped back into the flow of students moving hurriedly past. Each laughter, each chatter felt like a jarring reminder of my own internal chaos. I folded my arms tightly around myself, seeking comfort in a shell I knew was growing thin. Mia fell into step beside me, her brow furrowed with worry. "You okay?" Her voice was softer this time, like she was hesitant to shatter any fragile strand of hope that remained. "Just peachy," I replied, trying to muster a smile, but it felt false and hollow even to my own ears. She sighed, glancing sideways, clearly unconvinced. "You sure you don't want to talk about it?" The weight of a confession pressed against my tongue, but I swallowed it down, unwilling to share my fears even with Mia, my closest friend. I was afraid she wouldn't understand the depths of my worry, how my recent failure was not just a blip on the radar, but a seismic event in my carefully curated world. As I entered the classroom, I felt eyes on me, whispers trailing like shadows. It was impossible to forget the report card crumpled in my backpack, the grades that felt like indictment more than mere numbers. I sank into my seat, the weight of judgment heavy around me, more suffocating than any physical object. The teacher began talking, but her words blurred into a hum, a background noise drowning in my spirals of anxiety. My mind wandered back to Caden. What had we even talked about? Did he sense how lost I was? With each passing moment, I felt myself grappling for the connection we had, realizing how profoundly it pulled me. Yet here I was, drowning in a sea of expectations from my family, friends, and worst of all, from myself. At lunch, I found myself picking at my food, the remnants of sad thoughts spilling over. Mia chatted animatedly about some drama unfolding among students, but her voice transformed into white noise as I tried to decipher the cryptic message on my phone. Who had sent it? A sense of unease settled in my stomach. "Earth to Ellie," Mia said, waving her hand in front of my face. "You're so zoned out. What's eating you?" I shook my head, unable to form the words. Instead, I just pointed to my half-eaten sandwich, as if that was all that needed to be said. As the day wore on, every glance from peers felt like a microscope probing at my inadequacy, amplifying my sense of failure. Finally, as the last bell sounded, a small spark jolted through me when I remembered the message. Take a leap. What could that even mean? My heart punched against my ribcage as I resolved to seek answers. The next day, my resolve carried me back to the courtyard, though I was again met with the sharp sting of reality. Caden was nowhere in sight, and my heart sank at the thought of losing that brief connection. I leaned against the tree where he stood before, desperation clawing at my resolve. Perhaps if I just waited, fate would align again. Time crawled and the sun threw golden rays against gray, warming my skin as I settled into the rhythm of a world that felt all too familiar yet terrifying. Just as I was about to give in and leave, a voice cut through the air. "Ellie," I turned with a surge of hope, only to find a girl from my English class, Julie. She was known for her laughter and effortless camaraderie, a stark contrast to my current desolation. "What are you doing here all alone?" "Just getting some fresh air," I mumbled, the truth too tangled to give voice to. Julie shrugged, her smile unfaltering. "Well, if you're free later, a bunch of us are hanging out at the park. You should come. It might be fun." The offer, unexpected yet sweet, sparked a flutter of resentment and hope within me. Was I really ready to join the crowd when I felt so broken? "Thanks, but I'm not in the mood," I replied, the words tasting bitter as they slipped from my lips. She studied me intently, a flicker of understanding in her gaze. "Hey, I get it. Maybe you don't feel like being social, but you should know you're not alone, okay? People care more than you think." With that, she left, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness left behind. As I lingered, the urge to leave the courtyard gnawed at me until I sensed the familiar yet magnetic presence I had been longing for. Caden's figure appeared in the distance, that same glint in his hair catching the sunlight, but doom began to shroud the moment again. He was closing in on a different group, his laughter mingling with their laughter I could never crack into. With sudden urgency, my phone chimed again, snapping me from the grip of envy. The unknown number lit up my screen once more. Everything crumbles before it transforms. Embrace the change, but remember, truth hides beneath layers. My heart leaped. With each message came a fresh veil of mystery and dread. What did they mean? And why did I feel like it was all attached? The report card, Caden, my spiraling emotions. Just as I contemplated my next move, the group erupted into a loud cheer, drawing my eyes back to Caden. He turned, his gaze scanning the yard until he caught mine. There was a moment, a heartbeat where everything around faded, and for a second, I thought he would come over. But the moment shattered as another girl, her laughter bright and carefree, tugged at his arm, pulling him into their whirlwind. The cliff of isolation yawned wider, and terror gripped my chest. What twist lay ahead? The messages warned of a transformation, and suddenly, the battles I faced seemed to loom above like storm clouds. Lives entwined, but just as quickly they bifurcated, and with Caden's absence, I felt a sharp pulse of reality, the knowledge that every leap could just as easily plunge into darkness as it could lift into light. Perhaps, just perhaps, the plunge was where answers lay hidden. The next day, the chill in the air matched the dampening heaviness that clung to my thoughts. Each step toward school felt like a march toward inevitable disappointment. Mia was quiet beside me, sensing perhaps that the weight of yesterday's revelations lay thick upon my shoulders. "Are you sure you don't want to talk to Ms. Mitchell?" she asked cautiously. "She's great with this kind of stuff." Her suggestion flickered a spark of young defiance in my spirit. Couldn't she see that I was beyond help? My world was collapsing, and the faint possibility of bouncing back felt out of reach. "It'll be fine," I replied, forcing a certainty I didn't feel. At lunch, I sat amongst friends who looked familiar yet felt foreign, their laughter sounding like distant thunder. They were discussing plans for the weekend, but the more they chatted, the more I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. I wished to join their laughter, to dive into the lightness of adolescence once more, but fear held me back, stuck in a quagmire of unworthiness. Then an unexpected voice broke into my reverie. "Ellie, how's it going?" It was Alex, a guy known for his laid-back demeanor, who slid into the seat across from me. A gentle urgency in his eyes hinted he could sense my frazzled nerves. "Just, the usual," I replied, but his gaze pierced through my facade. "I get that look. When you're trying to smile but you're really just wondering if the universe plots against you." He chuckled softly, and the laughter transformed into something profound, making the air around us feel lighter. "You need to shake things up. Come with us to the mall after school. It'll be fun." For a moment, my heart flickered with hope. Maybe a distraction was exactly what I needed to break free from myself. "I don't think so," I said, still tethered to my fears. But there was something sincere about his invitation that made me hesitate. Still, I watched as the table grew animated again, their exchanges filled with warmth while I felt as if I were on the outside looking in. Just then, I felt my phone buzzing ominously in my pocket. Pulling it out, I saw another text from the unknown number. "Change is terrifying, yet blooms in the discomfort. Trust the process. Your truth awaits." A jolt raced through me. What could it mean? I slipped the phone back into my pocket, but the words clung to me like a second skin, an uncomfortable reminder of all that pressed down on me. I could feel my pulse quicken at the prospect of unlocking a truth I could barely confront. After lunch, the weight of the classroom seemed more pronounced. My mind was a carousel of emotions, swirling around the fear of failure and the isolation that echoed in Caden's laughter as he moved further away from me. Each passing minute stretched longer, and eventually, as I was lost in thought, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Spinning around, I was met with Caden's striking warmth, his blue eyes full of sincerity and something else, concern. "Hey, Ellie. You okay? You seem distant." The simplicity of his inquiry caught me off guard, bared in his gaze. My facade almost crumbled. It took all my strength to reply, "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." He nodded, casting a brief glance at the group before focusing back on me. "If you ever want to talk or, I don't know, just chill and forget for a while, I'm around. My heart raced at the simple sincerity of his offer. Did he really care, or was it just a kindness manifested out of pity? The battle inside me stilled at the thought, and I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat. Thanks, Caden. As he walked away, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a nearby window, a girl worn thin by her struggles, staring back at me. Part of me felt the urge to step into the light, to reach for a connection with Caden that might tether me back to life. But just when I thought I could push back against the tide, a heaviness settled over me again. Later that day, I found myself standing before the school entrance. The invitation from Alex lingered in my mind, but I doubted my ability to be anything but invisible. I was on the edge of making a choice when the phone buzzed once again. This time, the message took my breath away: someone's watching you. The cracks show before the fall, confusion and fear mixed in an unholy union, and I looked around frantically. The realization hit me hard: I wasn't merely grappling with my own stakes, I was becoming a pawn in something greater, something that promised to challenge my very existence. But who was watching? And why did it feel like I was being drawn into something darker than my own spiraling despair? Just as uncertainty tangled with dread, I caught sight of Caden again, deep in conversation with another girl, laughter spilling out as if it was the remedy for the chaos I faced. And within that chaos, I felt the pull of inevitability. One moment, a leap could lead to hope, yet each fall felt heavy with a truth I still couldn't grasp. The world spun in a whirlpool of possibilities, and within that moment of connection and distance, I understood that the plunge wouldn't be long in coming. As the final bell rang, I lingered for a moment, caught between the swirling confusion of my thoughts and the gravity of the outside world. I could feel Mia's presence nearby, her patience a soft blanket against the chill of uncertainty that had wrapped around me all day. "Are you coming or not, Ellie?" she asked, her brow furrowed in concern. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the hallway and into the arms of the late afternoon. The golden light warmed my face, but it did little to thaw the cold knot of anxiety in my chest. I stood at the school gates, feeling as if I were on the precipice of something monumental, yet uncertain of what awaited me on the other side. Behind me, the school crowd poured out, students bubbling with excitement as they chatted and laughed, completely unaware of the tempest brewing within me. An unexpected pang of longing surged through me. I wished to be a part of that effervescence, to feel connected and free. But instead, I felt like I was existing in a parallel universe, a place where everyone moved with purpose while I stumbled aimlessly. Mia nudged my arm, breaking my train of thought. "You should go with Alex and the others. It could be fun." Her eyes held a glimmer of hope, as if she believed that a simple trip to the mall could restore a spark to my withering spirit. "I don't know," I replied, my voice muted by doubt. "What if I just ruin everything?" "Ellie, you deserve a break. Maybe, just maybe, something good will happen," she reassured me, a warmth in her smile that seeped into my numbed heart. "I'll be there with you." I hesitated, the pull of fear tugging at me, yet in that moment, I remembered Caden's concern. Was it possible that even amidst my despair, there were others willing to bridge the gap that had suffocated me for so long? Maybe I could allow myself a flicker of hope, just enough to join them, to be seen, and, for a moment, to forget. With newfound resolve, I turned toward Mia. "Okay. Let's go." The mall bustled with noise and energy, a stark contrast to the quiet storm lingering in my thoughts. As we approached the group, I could feel a flutter of trepidation. Alex greeted me with open arms, laughter spilling out of him, his easy demeanor a stark contrast to my anxiety. "Glad you made it. Just in time for the greatest game of air hockey," he exclaimed, nudging me toward an arcade tucked in a corner filled with flashing lights and raucous sounds. My chest felt tight, but somehow, the warmth of camaraderie untangled some of the knots. As we played, the laughter felt foreign yet soothing. Each moment when the air hockey puck skated across the table brought out cheers and playful taunts. It transported me to a moment where worries were far away, as if I were no longer tethered to my troubles. I felt like I was floating, yearning to fully immerse myself, yet glancing back at the shadows that still lurked. Later, as I took a break on a nearby bench, I spied Caden leaning against the arcade wall, watching the others with that easy smile of his. My heart raced. The way his gaze searched the crowd, as if searching for someone, revealed a depth that sent a thrill racing through me. The thought of approaching him felt terrifying, yet thrilling. "Hey," I heard a voice from behind, and turning, I found Alex settling beside me. "You doing okay? You seem elsewhere." The kind intent in his words made my throat swell. "I'm trying," I admitted, allowing vulnerability to seep through the cracks I had guarded so fiercely. Alex nodded knowingly, his voice gentle. "Just remember, sometimes it's good to let go a little bit. You might be surprised by what you find when you're open to new experiences." Just then, my phone buzzed again, pulling me back from the moment. I pulled it out and gasped as I read the new message: "The shadows around you grow. Beware. Trust no one." Shivers danced down my spine, ice in my veins as I scanned the room. Was someone really watching me? Had I unknowingly stepped into a darker world than my own pain? The worry settled uncomfortably in my gut. This night had felt like a breath of fresh air, but as I looked around at familiar faces, Mia, Alex, all the laughter, my heartbeat echoed in a frantic rhythm. As I turned to Alex to say something, Caden caught my eye from across the room, his expression suddenly serious. He had noticed my reaction, and his brow knitted in concern. The easy laughter around us faded, supplanted by the weight of uncertainty in the flickering lights that I felt exposed, a target in a world where unpredictable shadows loomed ever larger. The dread of my secrets threatening to break free mingled with the thrill of hope, and I wondered if I could really navigate this fragile thread between darkness and light. In that moment, locked in Caden's gaze, I saw the flicker of a question, a possibility of understanding. But even as I leaned in, that heavy shroud of fear tied me to the ground, whispering warnings that compelled me to retreat rather than step forward. And there, in the liminal space between connection and withdrawal, I stood on the precipice of uncertainty between trusting the light and fearing the shadows that had set their sights on me. As the laughter faded around me and the shadows loomed larger in my mind, I felt the weight of my phone burning a hole in my pocket. The message echoed relentlessly, each word a jagged whisper: yes, caution, fear. Trust no one. I scanned the brightly colored arcade, but all I saw were familiar faces morphing into vague silhouettes. The walls of the mall felt as if they were closing in, the vibrant noise turning into a low, droning hum that mirrored the tempest within me. "Belly?" Alex's concerned voice cut through the fog. I glanced at him, and for the briefest moment, his expression was unreadable, a kaleidoscope of worry and confusion. "What's going on?" I think I hesitated. How could I explain the sensation of impending doom without sounding absurd? But the truth lay heavy on my tongue, fighting to be freed. "I think I might be in danger." There, I had said it, and in those words was a revelation of both vulnerability and the fear of revealing too much. Alex frowned, his brow furrowing as he shifted on the bench. "From what? Why do you feel that way? Is it someone here?" I opened my mouth to speak, only to close it again. I suddenly felt as if the whole world was watching me, its eyes like black holes, consuming me whole. Instead, I blinked rapidly, searching for anything to ground me. Within the frantic beating of my heart, I was struck by a need to see Caden's expression again. There was something about his gaze that gave me hope and rooted my feet to the earth, but Caden had now turned back toward the crowd when I glanced across the arcade, laughing with friends, the earlier concern replaced by a boyish grin that lit up his face. Just a moment ago, I felt a chance at connection pass by, and now it slipped further from my grasp. "Mia," I called, and she turned, her eyes filled with bright concern. "Can you come sit with us?" Mia approached, immediately sensing the shift in the atmosphere. It felt as if the air thickened, suffocating the remnants of laughter that had once been so vibrant. "What's going on?" she asked softly, her voice like a tether that sought to pull me back from the brink. I bit my lip, casting a wary glance toward Mia and Alex, their faces reflecting a blend of worry and confusion. "I got a message," I whispered, my voice low. "It said, the shadows around you grow. Beware. Trust no one." Mia frowned, her brow furrowing in a way that screamed genuine concern. What shadows? Who sent it? I don't know, I admitted, panic surging within me. I don't even know if I should trust anyone right now, even you. What if it's true? What if someone is really out to get me? Before they could respond, I felt the presence of Caden again, his gaze fixed on me once more, but now, it seemed heavier, charged with a mix of worry and something deeper. I considered running to him, like a moth drawn to a flame, but fear anchored me to the spot. What if I reached out only to discover that trusting anyone was the wrong choice? Without warning, the arcade lights flickered ominously, plunging us into brief darkness before the fluorescent buzz returned. I shuddered, the message flaring suddenly urgent in my mind. I was losing grasp of my reality, and the thought of voices in the dark was far more troubling than merely dealing with the shadows of my insecurities. Breathe, Ellie, Alex urged, but his comforting words felt surreal. We're here with you. Whatever's going on, we can figure it out together. You're not alone. In that moment, I took a ragged breath. Perhaps there was still room for kindness amongst the uncertainty. I clung to the idea that they had my back, but trust was a fragile thing to lay bare. Suddenly, a cold shiver coursed through me, sharper than before. I spotted a figure just beyond the arcade, lurking near the entrance dressed inconspicuously, their face slightly obscured. Fear wrapped around me, tightening like a noose. My instinct screamed something was very wrong. Do you see that? I pointed in the direction of the figure, my hands trembling. Mia followed my gaze, her eyes narrowing. Oh my God, Ellie, just focus on us. Stay close to us. But the figure turned, and for the briefest moment, our eyes locked. A flicker of recognition shot through me like lightning, an echo of my past colliding violently with the present. It was someone I thought had been long gone, someone who danced along the edges of my memories like a haunting specter. Is it someone you know? Alex whispered cautiously, his eyes darting between the figure and my stunned expression. All I could do was nod, a sickness rising within me at the thought of encountering them again. As they faded into the night, darkness stretched further around me, the shadows wrapping like tendrils around my heart. I had stepped outside to breathe, seeking light, but now I felt ensnared, the flicker of hope I had fought for threatened to extinguish. The challenge of trusting those around me loomed larger than ever, and in that crucible of doubt, I stood once more at the edge of uncertainty, swallowed by shadows that whispered of betrayal, while the warmth of friendship struggled to reach me. The soothing hum of the arcade's machines was replaced by a thick silence as I staggered outside, heart racing and breath quickening. The night air hit my face, sharp and cool, but it did little to ease the panic surging through me. Each beat of my heart echoed in my ears like a countdown, urging me to act, but my feet felt rooted to the pavement, as if the ground was conspiring against me. Ellie, wait. Alex's voice broke through the fog, but I didn't stop. I was chasing shadows, literal and metaphorical, tangled in memories I thought I'd buried long ago. I rounded the corner, desperate for a reprieve from the vibrant chaos behind me, yet the familiar streets pressed in like a cage. The figure I'd seen lingered in my mind like a wraith, a reminder of a lost chapter that could not remain closed. I used to think I'd found closure, moved on from the doubts and fears that had haunted me for so long, but now, they rushed back like an unwelcome tide. Ellie. Mia's voice caught up to me, the urgency of her footsteps thudding against the pavement. She placed a hand on my shoulder. You have to talk to us. Please. I exhaled shakily, trying to steady the tumult within me. That person. I know them, Mia. They shouldn't be here, I added, my voice barely a whisper. I thought I was safe. A moment of stillness passed between us, filled only by the distant sounds of laughter from the arcade behind us, mocking my spiraling anxiety. Mia's grip tightened, unyielding, a reminder of a thread that bound us. We're going to figure this out. Just tell us what you know. But the truth felt heavy, an anchor dragging me down. How could I open that door again? I made mistakes, I muttered, searching the depths of Mia's eyes for understanding, yet feeling a storm brewing within myself. I hurt someone long ago. I thought they were gone for good, and now, Ellie, whatever it is, you're not alone. Her words wrapped around me like a soft blanket, although doubt still gnawed at me. I mean it. Well, help you. At that moment, the warmth of her kindness felt like a tether, but I couldn't shake the feeling that shadows were closing in. What if they come back? What if they want revenge? Mia shook her head vehemently, her sincerity radiating in the cool night air. No one can take your life away from you. You've come so far already. Well, protect each other. The sincerity in her eyes broke through the fog, igniting a spark of something I thought I'd lost hope. I don't want this to ruin everything, I confessed, my voice cracking. My friendship with you, it matters more than anything. That I am not going anywhere, she promised. Just then, a distant voice broke through, sharp and grating. Ellie. Where are you? It was Alex again, his worry palpable. I felt a strange mixture of gratitude and guilt wash over me. They were willing to stand beside me, but could I trust my own instincts? I turned to face Mia, weighing the choice before me. We should go back. I can't let fear take control. Before we could move, the sound of footsteps echoed behind us, light at first, then suddenly steady and deliberate. My heart pounded. I braced myself against the wall of the arcade, fear flooding my veins once more. Who's there? I called into the darkness, feeling a chill race down my spine. Just me, came a voice, low and familiar, coated in a hint of amusement. I squinted into the night, trying to discern the silhouette stepping into the light. My breath hitched at the sight before me. Caden, framed by the neon glow of the arcade. Caden! Mia exclaimed, relief evident in her voice. But I felt nothing but dread, waiting for the punchline to land in a cruel twist. What are you doing here? I stammered, the panic rising again. That I was looking for you, he said, his voice softening. I felt something was off when you left. Are you okay? Yeah, of course, I lied, the tightness in my chest growing heavier. His eyes narrowed in concern, searching mine for the truth I barely understood, but I couldn't let him in. Not now. I didn't want to involve him in this mess. I just needed some air. That's all, I replied, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. Before he could press further, the figure I'd seen earlier emerged from the shadows again, stepping from the clutches of darkness into the light of the arcade. My pulse quickened as I recognized them again, the sickening feeling returning with a vengeance. Ellie, came the voice, smooth, dripping with familiarity. You didn't think we were done, did you? As the weight of the past collided with the present, the laughter of the arcade felt miles away. The shadows were back, and I stood frozen, the world around me blurring as fear wrapped its icy fingers around my heart. The air thickened around me as those words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of everything I thought I had left behind. The figure stepped closer, their features becoming sharper, every memory flooding back like an unrelenting wave. Panic clawed at my throat, and I instinctively took a step back, the warmth of my friend suddenly feeling distant and fragile. Ellie, came the voice again, a silky whisper that held the weight of bygone years. You can't run from me forever. My heart raced as I glanced at Mia and Caden, their faces contorted in confusion and alarm. What do you want? I managed to stammer, my voice trembling, the facade of bravado crumbling under the weight of truth. That I want to talk, the figure said, a smirk spreading across their lips. It's been so long. Surely you owe me that much. Each word dripped with the venom of past wounds, opening doors I had thought were securely locked. The promise of moving on felt like a cheap trick in the presence of my past. I could see fond memories mingling with bitter regrets across those familiar eyes, a reflection of a person I once knew far too well. Stay away from her, Caden interjected, stepping forward protectively. He didn't know the whole story, yet here he was, acting on instinct. The urge to shield me from the harm that loomed in the air felt reassuring, even if it ignited my sense of guilt. That's adorable, the figure chuckled, eyeing Caden with amusement. But Ellie's the one who needs to decide. Don't you see? I'm not the monster here. "I'm just unfinished business." Mia moved closer to me, her presence anchoring me in a reality I wanted so desperately to escape. "We can call the police," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor running through her fingers. I could feel the weight of this suggestion hang in the air. The thought of involving authorities made my heart race anew. Would that just drag out the shadows even further? "No!" I shouted, surprising even myself. "That'll only make things worse." "Ellie, you're not thinking straight," Mia argued, her brow furrowed with concern. But I was, in a way. I could see the cracks forming around me, the fragile thread of connection that bound us all starting to fray. The threats could lurk in the shadows, but they changed shape, grew more dangerous with each passing minute. "We can deal with this," I insisted, forcing calmness into my words as I faced the specter of my past. "You want to talk? Fine. We're talking." The figure's smile faded slightly as they regarded my defiance. "Now we're getting somewhere. You've grown, Ellie. I like that. But are you ready for the truth? I spat, my voice laden with skepticism. "Your version of truth was never any good to me. You twisted everything back then, maybe, but I opened your eyes to all the things you've pretended to forget," they replied, their tone almost tantalizing. "Admit it. You've missed it. You've missed me." I clenched my fists, a whirlwind of anger and embarrassment bubbling beneath my skin. "I've moved on. I have friends who care about me. You have no idea what I've been through." The figure laughed lightly, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "And yet, here we are, drawn back together like moths to a flame. What will you do now, Ellie? Shun me again, or finally confront everything you've hidden away? End this," I demanded, words dropping like stones into the silence, creating ripples of discomfort. "You don't own me. Not anymore. Is that what you truly believe?" The figure's voice was low, dangerously inviting, almost coaxing me back into the familiar cycle of fear and regret. "You're right. I don't own you. I just see you for who you really are. We're not so different." The statement cracked open a door I'd fought to keep locked, reminding me of nights spent wrestling with my identity and scars that had never fully healed. "I'm not like you," I replied, trembling under the weight of their gaze. "But was I? Can you be so sure?" They challenged, stepping closer, rapidly narrowing the distance between us as the shadows of the arcade loomed, pressing in from all sides. Emotion bubbled to the surface as I felt the world constrict around me. The laughter of the arcade had faded out entirely, leaving only the sound of my own ragged breath. I wanted to scream, but all that came out was a shallow whisper. "Get away from me, Ellie, we can't just let this go," Caden asserted, authority and concern threading his voice together. "This isn't a game. You deserve to be freed, and I am trying." I shot back, feeling the tears well in my eyes. My voice cracked with vulnerability, raw and exposed. The shadows danced around me, teasing with memories I wanted to forget, but couldn't. Then, in a sudden twist, I felt a warmth brush against my arm, Mia's fingers intertwined with mine, a gentle squeeze that sent a flicker of strength through me. "Look at me," she said, her voice steady, anchoring me when I felt like I might float away. "We're all here. We're not letting you go." With that small act, the darkness that loomed felt a touch less overwhelming. But before I could grasp onto that hope, the figure leaned in closer, their breath brushing against my ear, stealing the warmth from my skin. "We all have our secrets, Ellie. And trust me, in this game, you'll wish you knew who to trust. But by the end, it may all just come crashing down." As they stepped back, the threat dangled ominously in the air, a promise that uncertainty loomed, powerful and undeniable. I turned my gaze to Mia and Caden, their eyes reflecting worry and tremendous support, but in that moment, I felt a deep chasm growing within myself. Who could I trust anymore, when the person I feared most knew me better than I knew myself? Then, the weight of the figure's words hung heavily between us, and the night deepened, bearing witness to the swirling chaos within my heart. I suddenly wished I could rewind time, slip back to when life was simpler. But there was no going back. Only the fear woven into the fabric of my existence. And as the shadows sprawled outward, ensnaring us tighter, I realized I was still standing at the precipice, one decision away from everything I had fought to leave behind. And as the streetlights flickered ominously, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The shadows flickered under the harsh glare of the streetlights, each pulse lighting up fragments of memories battling for dominance in my mind. I could feel Kaiden's and MIA's support, their presence like a lifeline, yet the weight of my past loomed larger than ever. I had meant to forge a new path, but the figure before me was an anchor dragging me back underwater. "Let's take a walk," I said abruptly, surprising myself with the decision. The arcade lost its warmth in an instant, the laughter and neon lights fading into a dull blur behind me. I had little idea where I was heading, but I yearned for space. You could drown in a room filled with friends if all you could think of was how to escape yourself. We moved down a narrow alley, away from the bustle, the walls closing in around us like the thick fog of my anxieties. "Ellie, are you sure? We can go back, we don't have to." Kaiden's voice trailed off, sensing my need for distance, even if he couldn't grasp everything swirling beneath the surface. "Just give me a moment," I managed to reply, my voice barely above a whisper. The alley was dimly lit, littered with echoes of laughter from the street as I leaned against the cool brick wall, struggling to breathe. Panic threatened to swallow me whole as I closed my eyes, trying to block out the figure's words that echoed relentlessly in my mind. "You've missed me. No. I hadn't missed anyone but the girl I used to be before all of this. The innocence, the laughter, the belief that trust could be a sanctuary rather than a battlefield." Mia stepped beside me, her shoulder pressed against the wall, her eyes searching mine for anything that could demonstrate I was still in there. "You don't have to face this alone," she urged gently, her voice an anchor in the storm raging inside. "You have us." "Well, fight with you." "I don't know what I'm fighting, Mia," I replied, uncertainty shattering the fragile calm. "All I see are shadows whispering things I wish didn't hold any truth. Maybe that's what needs to be confronted." "The truth," she responded softly. "But it doesn't define you, Ellie. You still get to decide who you want to be." Was I still that girl? The one filled with possibility and dreams? Or had I traded that for a constant game of avoidance, wrestling with memories that clawed at my psyche? Could I ever look the monster in the eyes and claim victory, despite the jagged scars etched into my heart? And then it hit me: figure hadn't just returned to haunt my past, they were after my future, a weapon eagerly aimed at the very foundation of my identity. I might have friends now, real ones who cared, but the conflict within felt like a raging storm, blurring the very edges of who I was. "Where do we go from here?" I finally asked, my voice cracking. The thought paralyzed meth notion that I had to deal with my fears head-on when all I wanted to do was run. Every ounce of me screamed for escape, yet the siren call of the past only grew louder, more insistent. "Together. We figure it out together," Mia replied, with unwavering conviction. The intensity in her gaze fueled a flicker of warmth within me. "You're not alone anymore. Whatever this is, we'll face it together." In her words, I found a glimmer of hope, a fleeting pulse that steadied my jittering nerves. Maybe there was strength in vulnerability, a possibility that perhaps faced with the daunting figure of my history, I could assert who I had become: a survivor, not a victim. Before I could vocalize my thoughts, a figure emerged from the end of the alley, silhouetted against the dim streetlights. My heart plunged, dread washing over me again. But it wasn't the figure from before, it was another person, edging closer, their features becoming clear through the shadowy haze. "Ellie?" The voice was hesitant yet familiar, a lifeline from an unexpected direction. It was Jake, the boy from high school who wore his heart on his sleeve, someone whose laughter had once felt like home in a sea of uncertainty. "What are you doing here?" I stammered, shock swirled with an unexpected rush of warmth. "I saw you back at the arcade," he responded, glancing nervously at the alley's mouth, and then back at me. "Thought you might need someone to talk to. Are you okay?" My heart flickered, a strange ember igniting amidst the chaos within. Here was someone who had once known me before the darkness, before the spiral of secrecy. If anyone could bring a sense of normalcy back into this tumult, it would be him. I am working on it, I said as I struggled to find the right words. Things are complicated. Complicated is just life trying to give you a good story to tell, he quipped, a small smile breaking through the heavy atmosphere, displaying a surprising depth of understanding. But seriously, if you want to talk, I'm here. I'm always here. As I matched the warmth in his gaze, a sliver of trust cracked open inside me. Perhaps I didn't have to face this head-on alone. But then I hesitated. Could I open up to someone again when my own emotions still felt so deeply buried? Are you sure you want to? I asked, apprehension clawing at my heart. I mean, it's not pretty, and I'm not sure if I'm even the person you remember. I don't care what you think you've become. I care about who you are now, he said earnestly, his sincerity kindling a flicker of hope within me. Talk to me, Ellie. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of salvation, a tiny light escaping the heavy blanket of despair clinging to me, promising that maybe, just maybe, opening up to someone who believed in me could be the thread I needed to start weaving my narrative anew. It reached out and wrapped around the broken edges of my heart, a tether pulling me back towards resilience, but before I could respond, the air around us shifted again. The distant sound of laughter from the arcade felt like a mocking reminder that shadows lurked at the edges, waiting for their chance to reclaim me. Just as I was about to take a breath and step forward, the figure from before stepped into the alley, their presence practically crackling with tension. Looks like I'm just in time, they smirked, their tone dripping with amusement. What a cozy reunion. But I've got something to share, Ellie, something that might change everything. My heart sank again, a fresh wave of dread crashing over me. Here, in this moment of unanticipated hope, everything began to unravel. I had opened a door, but now it felt as if the storm was barreling in, ready to consume us all, while I was caught somewhere in the eye of the hurricane, unable to turn back. The delicate threads of trust we were weaving threatened to snap, and all I could do was stand at the crossroads, a myriad of paths before me, all uncertain, all dangerous, and none offering solace. The air was thick with anticipation, creating an electric tension that buzzed just underneath my skin. The figure's gaze pierced through the darkness, a deep-seated familiarity that ignited sparks of fear and rage tangled up inside me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to escape the echoes of unresolved pain that loomed ahead. But as I locked eyes with the figure, I felt something shift, an urge to confront the very shadows that had haunted me far too long. Change everything? I parroted, my voice a shaky whisper as I trembled on the precipice between confrontation and retreat. The flickering streetlight cast a jagged shadow across the ground, a visual representation of the fractures in my heart. Yes, the figure said, reveling in my uncertainty. You've been hiding behind this facade, haven't you? But we both know the truth. It's begging to be revealed. Their voice wove through the chaos, seductive and all too familiar, as if luring me back into the web of manipulation I'd fought to escape. Shut up. I burst out, a surge of courage swelling within. You don't get to dictate my truth anymore. I've fought too long to reclaim myself. Mia and Caden, ever vigilant by my side, shifted closer, their presence anchoring me as I steadied my breathing. Ellie, you've got this, Caden whispered, reinforcing everything unspoken: the understanding, the support, the unwavering belief in my strength. I took a deep breath, allowing their support to seep into my bones, as I anchored myself in this newly found resolve. Tell me what you want, I demanded, the quiver in my voice now replaced by a steely strength that surprised even me. Because I'm done letting you manipulate my fears. The figure's smirk faltered just a touch, replaced by a look of interest. Oh, but the fun has just begun. I know secrets. Secrets that have the power to ruin everything you fought for. They stepped closer, their presence overwhelming, like a dark cloud casting a shadow over the possibility of hope. I've made mistakes, I admitted, the words rolling off my tongue like stones, heavy yet hard-won with the weight of experience. But running away has only deepened the wounds. I refuse to be a prisoner of my past any longer. In that moment, I caught a glimmer of shock flicker across the figure's face, a recognition that perturbed their facade, awakening a flicker of fear buried deep within them. You're not the scared little girl I used to know, they murmured, something resembling respect glinting in their eyes. But can you truly face what lies beneath? watch me, I replied defiantly. With each word, I felt years of pain, doubt, and fear combusting just beneath my skin, morphing into a newfound energy that sent shivers racing through my veins. What if I told you I have information? Something that could change your life forever? They continued, their words sharp like sharpened blades, but I stood my ground, unyielding. Then tell me, I challenged. But understand this, your power is gone. I will not fall into your traps again. As my heart thundered in defiance within my chest, the figure's expression shifted from condescension to immense curiosity. It was as if they were suddenly aware just how perilous this standoff really was, for I was not backing down. That I know where your courage comes from, they said slowly, almost dangerously. I watched you weave yourself into this new life, but I also know everything that was lost. The truths they hinted at sent a shudder through me, memories I'd carefully buried rising to the surface. You think manipulating me again is the answer? I countered, each word fueled by the spirit of resilience within me. The only thing that can truly change my life is understanding the past and not letting it dictate how I move forward. Very noble, they replied, an edge of mocking in their tone. But what if what I'm about to tell you goes against everything you believe? Then you'll decide what to do with that information, I shot back, my heart pounding, knowing deep down that this was the moment of reckoning I had been fighting for, me right to choose my own journey. Fine, they said. Leaning in closer, the weight of their words palpable on the air. But understand this, choice is a powerful thing when the truth is in your corner. Your world is not as tidy as you'd like to believe, and digging into the past could bring consequences you're not equipped to handle. Mia, Caden, I said, turning to my friends, seeking their affirmation. This shadow doesn't intimidate me anymore. Their presence was a balm, warming me against the chill of doubt, and with a determined nod, they silently agreed. Go ahead, I urged. Let's see what you have. You're making a mistake, the figure warned, the underlying menace surfacing once more. But whatever they might believe about the odds, I wouldn't back down. I had fought too hard, I had endured too much to be scared of my past anymore. In that moment, as they finally unveiled their knowledge, the kind that threatened to warp everything I thought I understood, I felt a vast wave of courage bubble up within me. The shadows would swirl, they'd always be there, but I had allies now. There was no more hiding. There was only moving forward together, and in that connection, as the past collided with the present, I felt power surging forward, a promise to myself, to confront, to learn, and ultimately, to heal. I would emerge from this night not merely alive, but far more capable of embracing the future ahead. Go on, I encouraged, facing the figure with defiance. I'm ready for whatever happens next. Shadows or not, my light will guide me home. There, I stood at the intersection of trust and doubt, a culmination of everything I'd faced and everything I was yet to confront. As the figure began to speak and the truth spilled forth, the world shifted around me. His was not just about revelations, it was about transformation. And in that moment of raw honesty, I surrendered to the weight of my story, finally ready to reclaim every single fragment of who I was. And slowly, as the night kissed the edges of dawn, I understood that I was never truly alone. The shadows were surrounding me, yes, but so were the lights of hope and love, forever fighting to illuminate the darkest corners of my past. This was merely the beginning. Because in forging through the shadow, I had learned more than the empty echoes of pain, I had discovered the very essence of resilience. In that incandescent moment, I felt reborn, and as the figure faded back into the darkness, I stood stronger than ever, ready to face the day anew, ready to claim life without fear. In the quiet aftermath of shadows, I whispered to myself, I am more than my fears, I embrace my truth. And with that, I turned, stepping forward into a world that awaited my arrival, a world blooming with the promise of a future sculpted by the heart and steered only by my own unwavering spirit.